Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." Then Peter and the other disciple set out and went toward the tomb. The two were running together. But the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down to look in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came following him and went into the tomb. He saw the linen wrappings lying there, and the cloth that had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. Then the other disciple who reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed. But as yet they did not understand the scripture, that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to their homes, but Mary Magdalene stood weeping outside the tomb. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white, sitting where the body of Jesus had been lying, one at the head and the other at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." When she had said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said to her, "Do not hold on to me, because I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord." And she told them that he had said these things to her. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Christ is risen. He is truly risen. For us, we've been preparing over these now more than 40 days of Lent, spending time reflecting on the life of Jesus and on his message. And this past week, we've been gathering to go through these final moments: Palm Sunday, Holy Thursday, the Last Supper, Good Friday, and now today, Easter Sunday. Notice that with Good Friday, the earth was in complete darkness. And it seemed like they had won. Evil had won. It had extinguished that flame. Jesus had died, and it was all over. It's very, very interesting that at the tomb after Jesus died and they placed him there, who was waiting for the resurrection at the tomb? It wasn't the disciples. Jesus told them. You remember, he told them. He said, actually 3 times he predicted that he would die. And at one of them in particular, he says that the Son of Man will be handed over, he will be mocked and ridiculed, and he will be killed. And on the 3rd day, he will rise again. They had heard this, but were they waiting there by the tomb? No. Who was there by the tomb? Do you remember? It was the soldiers. The chief priests and the Pharisees, Sadducees, they sent a guard to keep watch over that tomb. Very strange. Those who don't believe, they're there waiting for something to happen, just in case. Making sure that it doesn't happen, actually, is what they want. But yet, that morning, that Easter morning, Mary and the women go to the tomb. They go to prepare the body, and to their surprise, even though maybe they had heard already, to their surprise, the stone is rolled away and the tomb is empty. Jesus isn't there. And Mary has this awesome encounter where she sees Jesus in his resurrected body. For Mary, for the apostles, for really all of those early Christians who saw Jesus with their own eyes, for them, they strongly felt called to be witnesses. They are witnesses to what they have seen. Eyewitnesses, actually. And even you think of Thomas, who not only saw, but put his finger into the wounds of Jesus. These were witnesses who would go and tell everyone, Jesus had died. He was dead on the cross. I saw him. We placed him in the tomb. And he rose, resurrection. He is alive. He's not dead. And even Jesus appeared to more than 300 people at one time. They knew that this was something awesome. This was something very mysterious. Jesus was dead and is now alive. For them, they bore witness. They considered themselves witnesses. And for you and I today, this Easter Sunday, we are witnesses as well. We are witnesses of Jesus Christ and his resurrection. Maybe not in the exact same way, but nevertheless still witnesses. Today I just want to touch on 3 ways, 3 characteristics, 3 traits of witnesses to Christ today. And you've heard this breakdown before: faith, hope, and love. That for us as Christians, these are our characteristics, these are our traits. Faith, hope, and love. That's what it means to believe in the resurrection, is to be deeply rooted in these supernatural virtues: faith, hope, and love. With faith, faith helps us to believe what we cannot see. For us, we're not the eyewitnesses, right? We haven't seen the resurrected Jesus in his body. But the apostles, these women, so many of the early Christians, they did. They were the eyewitnesses. And so we ask God to help us to believe based on with our faith based upon what they saw, what they heard, what they experienced. And what's really interesting is it's not just something like something old and kind of incomplete, but even they've had like lawyers who've gone through the scriptures, gone through the historical evidence, who have worked through it and said, okay, is this a reasonable thing to believe? If I was to put this on court today and go through everything, would I come up with the affirmative or a negative judgment? And what they find is that there's enough there. There's enough there historically and in Scripture to reasonably believe that Jesus truly rose from the dead. We ask God today to deepen our faith. We also ask for hope, for supernatural hope. Hope meaning that I can trust God, that I can trust him with my life. And we can trust him because we know him, because we have a living friendship with him. You know, sometimes people ask, can you prove to me that God exists? And the church teaches that you can know with certainty that God exists. You can prove it, basically, right, in some kind of form. And I believe that. I don't know if I can do it. Maybe some of you can. I'm not the one maybe for that. But I think about it, even philosophically or whatever, I can't even prove that you exist, right? I can't even prove that you exist, let alone that God exists. I mean, I presume so, but like that kind of level of proof, we believe that it's possible. And people have reflected upon that and have great things. But if you ask me, how do I know God exists? How can I be sure? Because I know him. Because I have a friendship with him. And for you as well, because we talk to him. We see his fingerprints everywhere. He's a living, meaningful, awesome part of our everyday lives. I trust him, and you trust him, because he's been good to us, and he remains faithful. Even in difficult times, he remains faithful. We ask God to deepen our hope, and then finally also our charity, our love. This is really the greatest thing about being a Christian, is to be able to live life as a Christian. It's fun, it's good to be able to strive to not just to take, but to be, and not just to be givers, but great givers like Jesus was. To give even everything away for his glory. We have in Jesus the example, the model that we are trying to imitate, the one who we are trying to follow. We could choose to be like anyone, but we're saying him. He's the way. And I want to be more and more like him. And so for us, we strive to be super generous, super other-focused, super thankful and grateful for all that we've been given. Following Jesus, it changes our lives. It changes who we are, and it deeply affects who we're trying to become. We want to be like Jesus. For all of us this weekend, we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. He is truly alive. He is risen. And for many of us, we've encountered him in our own lives in incredible ways. Today, thank goodness, right? Thank God. Thank God for his love for us, his presence in our lives, his living presence, and all that he's doing to transform our hearts, to make them more and more like the heart of Jesus Christ.